about batiks that we generally think of. Why not metallic on batik? Okay, this is one collection. I put metallic on batik. How did I do that though? Did I use a regular chop where you dip the wax in and you apply it? I overprinted with it. Okay, so there's a lot of technique that I get to challenge the process of batik making. So the normal process is the chop. You dip it into wax, you apply it, and then you bleach it out and you apply your background color. Okay, but what if I wanted metallic? And you can see on that one right there, that's metallic on it. Okay, and so I did it with a hand-done screen and just put it over. And luster has that too. And luster is what is in your block of the month. Okay, it has just a little bit of something different with it. Okay, these right here, let me see if I can click on, are different ways to apply color. Okay, we talked about a little bit about the chops. I can't see what I'm doing, I'm sorry. We talked a little bit about the chops, right? But the application of color is a little bit different too. And these are different ways to apply color. Ride On is one of the collections that we have coming in.
Is he spray painting it?
It's a squirt bottle.
Oh.
Very scientific application.
Yeah.
All right, so when I go to Indonesia, I have play dates in Indonesia, basically. And we just try little pieces of fabric. We don't try the 15 yards, but we try little pieces of fabric, and we try different ways of applying color. And it's called Quilters technique, okay, as far as applying the color. But if you think of it as a quilter, we'd like to cut things up, right, into small pieces. So when you look at your batiks, and she's got a beautiful array of batiks, so look at them. See if the color application or the color transition is going to work with your 4-inch square or your 5-inch square. Or maybe it's bigger balls of color, which is what they are doing on the previous slide, sorry, where it's big sponges of color, okay? And that gives you wonderful color for borders or different colors for like applique or something like that, okay? Bigger transitions of color. What they're doing on the side there, on this one right here, is they're doing a stripe, okay? So instead of scrunching it up, which is called smoking, instead of scrunching it up, they're accordion style folding. Okay, so then you're getting striations of color, right? How many times can you fold a piece of fabric or a piece of paper? Maximum amount of times that you can fold it in half. 8. That is my mother talking. She's here on HelpNet. That's a math teacher for you. But you can only fold it 8 times. So if you're trying to do a 15-yard piece, how are you going to fold it 8 times and still make the motif or the color application work for a quilter? Okay, so we're thinking of different ways of applying color. A squirt bottle is one way, folding it or an accordion style is another way. Okay, this right here in the center is what we call dip dyeing. Where the gold is right there is actually wax. Okay, and they're applying the color, they're brushing it on. All right, but notice with that, I'm allowing myself, if I do what we call very scientifically peanut butter wax. Okay, it's a thicker wax, a consistency like a paste. If I push it through a screen, I can get a bigger motif. Normally with the chops, you see a small motif. It's 8.5 by 20 inches, or 8.5, 20 centimeters, sorry. Okay, that's a square. And there's a reason for that. If you think of the size of a barrel, okay, that's what they used to burn wood in to heat the wax. So the tray on the top of it is only 25 centimeters. And you want to make sure you dip it in nice and even, right, to get a nice even application. So that's where that size came from. But what if I want something a little bit bigger or a little different, okay? The repeat and the luster is a lot different. It's about this big, okay? And that is because I do this in a different manner than I would normally do an application of wax with a chop, okay? This right here is hand painting, this one, okay? So where the gold is right there is holding the color, the initial color, the white, all right? And they're hand painting. Who am I employing right there? Women. Mm-hmm. It's a patriarchal society. Now, when I say it took a year to start Banyan, you know, in talking to factories and all of that kind of thing, I went over to Indonesia with my 2 bosses from Northcott, okay? And you know how they would talk to me? They'd be like this, talking to the male in the room, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And I was just so pleased that North got back to me and said, if you cannot talk to her, we don't have a contract. We're not going to be able to work with you. Okay. So it's been a little bit of a struggle. We've had to get rid of a couple of factories because of that. Okay. They have to be able to deal with me. And my nickname is Gila, which means crazy. Okay, so because I like to mix things up. I'm a quilter, you know. We don't like everything just normal. Okay, and like I said, remember I said maneuvering fabric companies into the quilting world. A lot of fabric companies in fashion and things like that think, oh, quilters, it's a hobby and this and that. Oh, you guys are smart when it comes to color. You guys are amazing when it comes to color, and a lot of these companies don't realize that. So it's very, very interesting maneuvering companies into the quilting world. Okay. Let's see if I can flip out. Yeah, that's a normal application color up there. Okay. All right, so motif application. We talked about motifs, right? And that's the chop. So my sketches are made into chops, and that's my chop library over there.
Oh.
Okay, so the way I do it is I design a collection as one and done. And what that means is the quilt shop owner can get it, and then they can't get it after a certain time, okay? Which is just lovely, because if all of a sudden you guys really like it, Beth goes, are you kidding me?
Family bought one.
So if you see something, get a couple yards. Okay, but the reason for that is we can keep it fresh, and I have a lot of different ideas. I put it in a collection because I can do something that's maybe seashore, I could do, you know, bicycle, or I could do, you know, keep it in a grouping. I can invite guest designers then too and help them. When you, as a fabric company, when you invite one of the pattern designers, you know, you see all their patterns and that kind of thing, and they have a fabric line, that helps elevate their business, because then they can get things like thread deals, or they can get book deals, or they can get, okay, so it's a matter of celebrating designers, pattern designers, okay? And I take suggestions from people like her. She knows what's a well-written pattern, okay? And she'll email me or text me, I didn't like that. Okay, but I have a lot of them. I have a couple in Colorado that I deal with a lot. I have a couple in upstate New York that recommend, you know, wherever I am, I look at the patterns that the quilt shop owners, okay, and then I bring in guest designers based on that, okay? So anyway, collection, I can do a collection, then they can have a collection, right? They can have a batik collection, all right? Now, let's look at the motif application here, okay? That brown was applied first, right? Okay, that brown color was applied. And what he's doing now is he's dipping that chop into the wax and he's setting it down. He goes back and dips it again, right? Now, what if he took that and applied it twice or 3 times without dipping it back in the wax?
You get lighter and lighter.
It would be inconsistent, right? I'm not, so I don't allow that in my factories. They have to go back and dip it. Now, if they have to go back and dip it, what is that a problem? Why is that a problem?
More cost.
More labor. Yes, okay? So I don't work with factories that pay by the piece either, okay? Because if you pay by the piece, then they're hurrying, right? They're trying to get it done. So the repeat isn't as consistent, okay? Another thing is I work with only factories that treat their workers a certain way, okay? So the breakfast and lunch are provided, as well as a lot of daycare, okay? I have some factories, one factory that has a training program. So they recruit men 16 and over, and they have, it's almost like a boys club. They have a whole housing for them, and they train them. Batik making is a career. It's an elevated position in Indonesia. So that's really pretty interesting. Okay.
So the factories that you work with, are they all on like Bali or one
No,
island?
they're on different
Because
islands.
there's thousands of islands.
Yeah. Indonesia is actually the 4th largest country in the world. Okay. They have a ton of different islands. I have some on Bali, and most of some on Java Island at this point. Okay. So when I go to Indonesia, I fly from Denver, and it takes, by the time I get home, it's 10 flights. Okay. Because I have to island hop to go to the different factories.
How often do you have to go?
I usually go 2 times a year. Yeah, but I haven't been back since because of COVID. So I really would like to get back to visit. Okay, it's like family over there. Okay, another thing is with the factories, they have to have a water treatment system. Okay, that's important too, isn't it? You can't dump dye. You can't dump all of that stuff into the river. Now, if you look up Indonesia, you'll see there's a lot of batik makers, batik, that do that. Okay, they dry it on soccer fields. I do have a factory that dries it on the soccer fields when they're not practicing. Okay, because space is limited or whatever. But you cannot. They treat the water before it goes. So you have to be environmentally conscious as well. Okay. Now, why? Well, I have some factories that want to work with me, right? But why would they not want to export? There's so many that support the local market, but they also don't want to export because you have to have licenses, you have to have inspections, you have to have all of that kind of thing because you have to have your production elevated to Western standards, okay? And your workers, how you treat them, all of that, okay? So we do not work, generally a lot of companies will work with an agent, okay? The agent then says, okay, this is where we're gonna get the designs from. Here's your designs, choose these are your collections. And we change that quite a bit. I go there, I work with the factories, I choose the factories because I know I have to stand in front of you guys and talk about environment and how they treat their workers and how they're paid and all of that kind of thing. So that made a lot of sense to me. So we make sure that they don't use a satellite. So if I use a factory, say, and they use a satellite, they say, oh, this person's gonna make it. Well, I don't know their working conditions and how they treat their workers, how they treat the environment, that satellite. Okay, I have to inspect it every time I go. I gotta know who they're using. Okay, so it's gotta be made in that particular factory, not a satellite. Okay, what about Kaitan? Let's talk about that. That's a heck of a lot of different colors, right? The essential.
And there were more.
Yeah. How many chops do you think we had to make to be able to do that? Because it's one person using that chop. How much can you make in one day, right? So we had to have at least, I think there were 5 or 6 chops made just for Kaitan, which is that sticky rice one. Okay, the beans. All right, so here's a couple more motif applications because I can't just do normal, right? Look how that's on the diagonal. Okay, all of that color is just for the motif though. We're gonna bleach it out and apply a whole nother color for the background. Right.
Wow.
Okay, and this is the fabric right here that was made, and this is a quilt by Patty Carey from Patty's Patchwork. Okay, here's one. How many different chops did I use on this one? This has got a border print. I used 4 chops. The white is your first color application, okay? And then there's bouquets, and then there's a border print too. Kind of fun, right?
Yeah.
That's what happens when they put a quilter in control. All right, so this right here, got some sound going there. Okay, so this one right here is the color, our brush strokes, and it's applied in striations, like I said, okay? And this is another way of applying, and they're doing it. What we did is we took a window squeegee, we did it on a diagonal, and then we cut the window squeegee, and we applied it to see if we could get a 3D look, and we did. We were able to in the Ride On collections, okay? This quilt in the center is by Christine Perigo. She is a modern quilter. Is batik modern? Is it traditional? Where does it play? All over the place. Okay. So if someone says, oh, batiks aren't traditional, I'll show them a collection that is. I'll go there. They're not modern. Well, there's different ways to make them modern. Christine and her friend Stephanie decided that there were no batiks ever accepted, or no batik quilts that had won an award at QuiltCon.
Really?
Not until 2019. Okay, so Stephanie and Christine, because they rated my studio and for the fabric, and they entered quilts, batik quilts.
Why do you think that is, that they didn't?
Because if you look at batiks, they're not like that solid, right? You can see here the color wheel. They're more modeled kind of look, right? Now, let's ask that question. Is that a batik? Right there. The modeled kind of look.
Like the color wheel?
I would say yes.
There's no wax applied. It's not a batik.
No way?
No wax applied. So the solids that she's got on there, right, on that batik wall, are not batiks.
So batik makes it if you apply the wax. Okay.
Right. So if we're willing to accept that the modeled kind of a solid of a batik isn't what they would say is a true batik, okay? Then why can't we do processes like, let's do some overprinting with metallic, right? Using the same goods, using the same artisans, using the same factories and the color applications, but let's just mix it up a little and have some fun, okay? And that's what we did with Lester, okay? All right, let's talk about quality control. Now, they're all made by hand, right? Let's see if I can get these going. But we still need quality control, all right? And what's he doing there?
Looks like he's fixing places where the color didn't take.
Yeah. So he's taking any wax off that maybe spilled on it or dripped on it or something like that. Remember, it's liquid, right? They're applying it with liquid. The wax is liquid, okay? And she is applying more wax with a canting tool or a chanting tool. So if a bike, okay, doesn't have, here, I'll get some of these. That's the one she's doing, actually. If the bike doesn't have wax where the spoke is, it's going to kind of break apart, or it's not going to show, right? So she wants to make sure she tries to get every single piece goes through that. So when I say it's hand done, not kidding. Okay, not kidding. All right, so right here, they're showing me how they inspect it. Okay, and they actually trusted me with hot wax. Okay, but you can see the sheen on it. That's the wax, right? Okay, and that wax is going to hold that red. It gets bleached out, and then the background is then applied too. Okay. Right here, my favorite dude is showing me how to apply the chop. There is a certain way to apply that chop so you don't obliterate the line, a delicate line. Those are from Patty Carey's collection, vino, wine bottles and grapes and stuff like that. So you want to have a difference of, filled in areas and line work and that kind of thing. You got to make sure you apply it so you don't obliterate the line. All right, and the gentleman, I think he's 45 years in Batiks. Okay, working as a toucan shop. All right, we'll get into batik essentials. I showed a little bit of the training up there. Can you guys squat like that? The way they were doing? All right, if you're in yoga, Annette, I think you could, right? But they do train, okay? They do train like that. But it is a different culture, right? They will have breakfast seated like that. That is a comfortable thing. I'm at this point Indian style, crisscross applesauce, all of that. I cannot do it, and I watch these little kids doing it, right? Okay, so it is a different culture, but they do train because it takes time. It's also, what if you apply the color differently? Okay, your way of twisting the fabric to scrunch it up, to smoke it or whatever, to make the color travel is different than, say, Annette's, okay? I can't put you guys on the same team. You can be on different teams, but it needs to be consistent every single time. So they do have an intricate system as to these 5 people work together on color, these 5 people work together on motif application, all of that kind of thing, and they keep record of it when we go to production. Okay, so when I get strike-offs in, and that's what I do, they send me strike-offs, and when I get them in, they're labeled as to usually who the team leader is. Okay, so I have certain chop makers that I know who I should send my design to if it's a complicated design. Okay, I have one particular factory that works with Beth in her Island Quilter or Hilton Head custom. Okay, yeah, and he actually wants me to take photos of her today in front of her display because he's so proud. He's so pleased to work with her. Yes. All right, so let's go quickly into Banyan essentials. We talked about this right here already. I spilled the beans that it is not a batik, right? Okay, well then what about that stripe stuff? Is that a batik where we apply color and stripes and accordion?
No.
No.
No wax.
No wax. You're batik educated.
I never
same
even
quality
liked
fabric
fabric till 2
underneath.
years ago.
Yeah, it's the same gray goods or the base goods, and it's the same factories that you do it. It's same hand done quality, all of that kind of thing. And I may apply colors or I may apply different things in a different way, just mix it up a little, so it is in our definition of batik. Okay. All right. So the essentials. Remember, Northcott just started this thing. Batiks have been around for a while, right? In quilting. So how do you get into the market when it's totally saturated? There's so many. How many vendors do you have? 25, something like that. Ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Northcott was kind of like, what do we do? And my thought was, let's do a whole bunch of textures for our essentials. Okay. So instead of doing 400, what we call shadows or the basic modeled hand dyes, let's do all of these different ones. Now, there's a method to my madness. You can do, oh, Brian, I like 48 of these. Remember owner of Northcott? Okay, Karen. Oh, Brian, I like 54 of this texture. Oh, Brian, I like this. I'm up to 400. Just little bits at a time, right? Okay. So I like a texture of my essentials, and that also is great for reordering or for shops to, oh my goodness, I need this green, except for when for some reason an aqua color doesn't sell anywhere except for here.
Really?
Then she takes all the bowls.
Wow.
All right, so the K-Town we talked about, and you've seen it in a couple magazines. Every once in a while I'll write a pattern and put it into a magazine because my background is that, and I just want to show how I would use my particular collection or the essentials. So sometimes you'll see me in, usually American Quilter, which is AQS, because they published my book a long time ago. Okay, so I'm kind of loyal to them. And then the other magazines are out actually in Golden, Colorado, and we meet and have wine slushies. So sometimes my stuff is there. But this particular quilt, Madison Star, uses the K-Town and the luster, which we're going to talk about. And it's a free download on the Northcott website. Beth can get the pattern. Have I sent it to you? Beth can get the pattern directly from me with the designer notes in it, okay? And it's a Bargello kind of quilt. The only thing you match up is the center seam. You've made that one.
My kind of quilt.
Have you made Madison Star? Gail did, I think.
I think
Yeah.
Gail did.
Yeah. But it goes together in Quilters Weekend. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and a bottle of wine. Okay, so, but I'm very adamant how you do it.
Drink the wine first.
Yes, but Madison is actually my daughter, my middle child. I get free labor on Mother's Day. Okay, I don't want to go out to brunch or anything. Usually, not labor. Mother's Day is right before quilt market. Quilt market, it happens 2 times a year, and that's when pattern designers try and show quilt shops their new stuff. And I'm always behind the gun, so the kids give me labor. Maddie was piecing it together with me and pressing. Actually, in the Madison Star Marathon, she's the presser. You just put your strips up like this, and she comes and presses for you.
Really?
Yeah.
How old is she?
Now she's 21.
Oh,
okay.
What?
So she'd do this, and then they found much better in the upstate New York guilds that I know I'm not from. If they put chocolate up, she go faster. But anyway, she's like, the least you could do is name the thing after me, and so the Madison Star is
nice.
named after her. Now Olivia, my 13-year-old, who's with me on this vacation, the mini version is called Olivia Star. Okay, she's a mini Mia Madison. Okay, just a little history there. All right. So, and there's some other quilts that you've seen. Like I said, we are in Simply Modern. We are, what about this right here? The wool with batik.
Ooh.
Okay, they're hand dyed. Both are hand dyed, you guys. So wool with batik, it's wonderful applique. Okay, wonderful to embellish with. So we've started a trend. We claim the trend of the wool and the batik together. Okay, me and my little stitch and bitch group. Okay.
Where in upstate New York are you?
I'm in Colorado now. I was over in Saratoga Springs.
Oh my God, my friend belonged to 2 guilds there.
Which one?
Annie. Oh, did she? Yeah. I don't know which guilds they are, but she's my neighbor here now, but she's from Saratoga Springs. That's
Okay.
where she lives.
She probably belonged to Wings Falls.
Probably.
Yeah, I was president of that guild for a little while.
Really?
Yep.
Oh, geez.
But this is the process. See the chop being made, okay?
wow.
See my drawing. He's making the chop, okay? They're weighing the color. It's all everything, like I said, is done by hand. All right. We dip dyeing it, then we apply it with the Quilters or the squirt bottle technique. There's many different ways to layer your color. I can get into batiks for a good couple hours, guys, and we're not going to do that today. But see how the scrunching makes the color travel.
That's
Okay.
how I tie-dye most of my shirts, is just scrunching in.
Yeah, different ways. And the soda ash kind of acts like salt. How salt would in a watercolor painting. It bursts the color, okay? Depending on how much you want it to burst.
I have
Okay.
that fabric.
Do you?
I'm pretty sure I have a piece of that.
Probably do.
And that is just the background, or I'm sorry, that is just the
Well, I have
motif.
something with all those colors in it.
Yeah. Okay,
I want this.
you got that?
No, I want it. I've been staring at this all morning. I want that.
Well, it's in your block of the month.
But I didn't join it.
Why not?
I want everyone's scrap.
All
Right.
right.
You up.
All right. So anyway, this is the process, and if you ever want to see the entire process, I do have a YouTube channel that you can go to and see it. I have these videos here. Okay.
Wow. That's so cool.
Let me see. All right, let's talk about luster and how the luster was made. Let's see if I can get here.
Luster or luster?
Luster.
That's what you love, is that orange is part of the luster.
Yeah.
Oh.
Okay. So the luster is what is in the block of the month. What are we doing right now?
Screen pressing or
Yeah.
something.
We're using a screen. Yes. Okay. And they allowed me to do it. I don't know if this is on video here, but they allowed me to do it. What we are doing on this one right here. Yep. See, what is that?
This metallic?
That's like,
It's bleach.
bleach?
Oh.
So instead of doing the bleach after the motif is applied, I'm applying the bleach solution, thank you, through a screen, okay? And if I apply it through a screen, I get more delicate balance. I can do smaller motifs, okay, than with the wax.
Gorgeous.
Okay. Now, obviously, we have to control the bleach, just like we have to control it to control the integrity of the fabric, right? But you can see I can get a delicate balance there, right? All right. And my repeat is bigger. I'm not restricted to the size anymore, right?
Mhm.
But I have to put the color down first, and then I can apply that stuff. Okay.
That's really pretty.
Is that like Clorox bleach? Just or
No, it's
I was
right,
gonna say.
but you're right.
Yeah.
Okay, what? And have you ever applied bleach to black, like a black
Yeah.
batik? How many colors are in it?
Red, for sure.
Okay, yeah. Lots of colors are in it. Okay, because black, it absorbs the light, right? It has all of these colors to build it up. Okay, some batiks can look, the black can look a little green, or it can look a little blue. Okay, so after I do the bleach and I get that motif kind of thing going right there, right? I overprint with black. Okay, then I overprint with white because there's a little bit of white, and then I overprint with metallic. Okay, how many processes is that? Five, something like that, right? For each piece of luster. Okay, and that's the one we chose to use in the block of the month.
Is it one-sided fabric unlike a lot of batiks where it's pretty much the same?
Glad you asked that
Yeah.
question. She was set, right?
I did not talk to her.
Okay, so it is. If you look here, it is. Now every batik, and you can use both sides. You want? Can I pass this around? Okay. You can use both sides of any batik. Okay. But of course, when you overprint, like the metallic or the black or anything like that, yeah. Also, when I'm applying that chop, okay, there is a right side when I apply that chop. Just a simple batik, there is a right side because I'm applying it to one side, okay? If I don't hold it down, if I hold it down too long, it puddles, it pools, okay? So I have to hold it down just long enough. If I do too thin of a line, it flicks off when I go to scrunch it up for the background. Okay, so it's a timing thing, right? But like for instance, the Hilton Head Batiks, we combined a whole bunch of filled in areas and then line areas, and we still wanted it to be red because it's printing, right? For you to be able to discern what it says. Okay, so we didn't hold it down as long, so you can definitely see it right side and wrong side, and also reads backwards, obviously, with print. Okay, but there is a right side and wrong side to batik. But you know what? When I'm sewing, sometimes I'm like, whatever. You know, it doesn't matter.
Do batiks bleed?
Yes, they can.
Oh, they can.
They can bleed, but think about this, okay? We wash it in very hot water, okay? And we do a fixation process. We fix the color. We also, Northcutt also applies they have this process that gives it a soft as silk kind of feel, okay? You can feel the batik. But can it bleed? What if we have a ton of color in it, okay? Yes, it can. So check it, test your batiks. I do not pre-wash. I do not pre-wash. Are your pre-cuts pre-washed? No. Okay. Are they pre-washed or shrunk a little bit at the factory because they are washed in hot water? Absolutely they are. So do I think they're going to shrink down more than cotton? No. Okay. But can they possibly bleed? I would test them if you're worried. Okay, your reds and blues are always going to be your questions. Okay, but there is great products out there. Synthropol and Retain retains the color, right? Synthropol will take out the color. I think that's how that works. Okay, so I mean, I've gotten to a quilt and I'm like, the red bled. Okay, and then I use those products. Okay.
Yeah, you know, the fabric still has the feel of a batik, so it must be the tight woven fabric you use.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it is. Yeah, it's all the base goods, right? The gray goods. Okay, it's all of that. Right now we have unbelievable shipping. You wouldn't believe it. How well, you've heard, I'm sure, the shipping channels and oh my goodness. Okay, so let's talk about the block of the month a little bit. Okay, it's made with mainly the luster. Okay. But it's also made with some of the other essentials. Now, why did I do that? Why did I not use, say, a collection? Okay, because a collection is one and done.
This is the base fabric.
Yeah, good. You can feel the tight weave at the base. Okay, isn't it beautiful?
Yeah. Wow.
So the one and done collections, I make it difficult for shops. Say she's running a block of the month, and then she has more signups later, okay? Or she wants to run it next year or something like that for different people. I didn't want it to be, okay, the collection's all gone, okay? So I wanted to use my essentials. But I didn't want to use just my hand dyes or the models, you know, because I didn't want my competition to be able to fill in their colors with mine. Okay, so I chose luster, okay? No one can reproduce luster. All right, none of my competitors have figured out how to do it yet. So no one can do this particular one, so that's why I chose that one. I chose Katan as one of the essentials, okay, because it's a nice background, the rice print, okay, and then I also put the shadows in there. The first two shadows we created were vanilla and licorice, okay, a good white. It's not a clean white, it's kind of a creamy white, okay. And the black, like I said, how many different blacks? There's so many different blacks out there. And I really paid attention to this one so it wasn't too green, it wasn't too blue, it wasn't too, okay? So when I started looking for the particular pattern of the block of the month, there's a lot of pattern designers out there. A lot of them do block of the month, okay? How do you choose one? Well, if they come to you and say, I don't like batik, it's probably a no. But I went on a mission trying to find somebody. I asked a few of my quilt shop friends, and then I also asked the magazine editors over the wine slushies. Okay, who they had submitted, who could do on time, who was very good at response, that kind of thing. And Scott Flanagan, who designed Illusions, was recommended by both sets. Okay, so that gave me, okay, he's one of the ones that I think I can, and I had a few that I was looking at. All right, another thing was Scott did not have the support of a fabric company yet. okay? I didn't want to choose somebody who Hoffman was using, or Kaufman, or, you know, all of these other companies. I wanted somebody who would work with Banyan. And I was then considering him when I use pattern designers. I check and see, okay, do they hit their deadlines? Am I gonna like working with them? Do I want to move them into their own collection? All right. I liked how he was able to respond quickly. I liked how his patterns were written. And this particular quilt, actually, he had made before, and he had used 32 fabrics, I think, which is not appropriate for the block of the month. Because now you got to think of how many fabrics can you use in a block of the month. Well, you can't use 32. That makes the shop owner go, are you kidding me? I have to bring in 32 bolts, okay? And that's a lot. Yes, and cut them. It's just rough, okay? So you don't want to do that. You want to keep it a certain amount. How many months do you want to do a block of the month? What kinds of piecing do you, or applique? Or is paper piecing a 4-letter word? Or do you want to do traditional? Do you want to do modern? This particular quilt actually did not have borders on it. It looked very, very modern, okay? And I made him throw borders on it. And then I colored it. I chose which particular lusters that I wanted to use in there, because I knew I had to use a certain amount of aqua to make her do it. Okay, but you get a lot of feedback, right, from different parts of the country, and who's going to do it. We do have shops that say, oh, that's a little bit modern. I did do differences. I don't know if you can see on this particular piece, differences where some of them have, like, this is the background, the Khatan, and then some of them have the shadows as the background, okay? And that gave it kind of a checkerboard look. Traditionally, we like a checkerboard look, traditional quilters, okay? So I skewed it more traditional. By putting the 2 borders on, I skewed it more traditional, okay? Yeah, so there was just small things that I was able to do, and Scott played along with. A lot of designers will say, this is how I want it, this is the fabric I wanted, that's it, okay? Well, that's not gonna work, you know, because we're trying to, our goal is to sell fabric, right? And our goal is to make her happy, okay, our shop owners. So that's kind of a little bit behind the scenes. Another thing is Khatan. I wanted to make sure to use Khatan. The first colors that I pulled for Khatan were the neutrals, okay, the grays and the beiges. I really didn't feel the market had enough of those, so I wanted to make sure to feature those, okay? So anyway, this is just, there's 2 quilts floating around the country, and this is just a few of the blocks. So if you'd like to see them, okay, made up.
Do you pre-starch before you cut your fabrics?
No, because I'm not washing them, and they've got that finish on them.
Seems like so many of the designers now are saturating, pre-starching.
Yeah, no.
Not Batiks though.
That's those moda designers.
That's regular.
That's
Yeah.
not a designer.
And Batiks, remember, they're gonna have a little bit of
Yeah,
wax
okay.
residue in them already.
Right,
Yeah.
okay.
I'm one that opens seams. I like my seams open, but I long armed for how many? 15 years, I think. Yeah, so I long armed forever, and let me tell you, I wasn't happy wearing safety goggles going over those landmines, you know, from the seams. But everyone's got their own opinion. One thing with the seams, a lot of times you press it to the side. I can race you, and I can press them open faster than you can press it to one side, number one. Number 2, batting used to bleed through, and that would be why we didn't press them open.
Oh,
Cause they'd
Okay.
be open.
Yeah.
okay.
So, but it's every personal preference. It is personal.
So needle size then on that fabric, because it is a
That's
little.
a lovely feel.
10s?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you use?
She's got
10s.
That's a finer needle,
Okay.
usually we use
But you can
8/20.
feel that it's,
Yeah.
it's a very
Yep.
tightly wound fabric. More so than a.
Here's the block of the month, and we are piecing it a little bit
It depends on the company.
with you guys in the studio. My son is actually, he's applying for grad school, so he's one of my assistants in the studio. he's been going to the poor kid. We make him hold quilts up all the time and that remembers it. But he is in the studio, and I also have she majored in color theory for a master's program. So she's in the studio too, but she does not quilt. She makes pillows and things like that. So she is going to be piecing along with you. So you guys will see stuff on Instagram and stuff like that of the studio. And we are making the blocks with you. Okay. And there's just a close-up of Lester, but you guys can see that here. All right. So I'm going to show you some collections that she has coming in. And then I'm going to show you some collections. And you're going to pretend to be a shop owner. Okay. And what you have to do, and remember, 25 different companies do this to her.
Yes.
Okay. And they make her choose.
And I'm gonna take all your names down.
Down.
Time.
So if you say I like
Don't raise
this,
your hand.
I'm calling you.
I get an action.
yeah. All right. So this collection is called Flutter, and this one Beth does have coming in. Okay. But anyway, it's all about butterflies, right? The main print is a butterfly, and the path the butterflies take, and the colors that are associated with them. Okay. And there's projects that we do along with it. Okay. It's just quite different. And we showcase in the lookbooks, we showcase all different projects because she doesn't have a hard enough time seeing the headers. We got to show her projects too because she's a quilter and falls in love with them. Okay, see, so it's all marketing, right? And there's one of the projects. Isn't that beautiful? Yeah. So this is one of the designers, right, that I reach out to and I say, I know you guys have this out. I like this pattern. Would you mind if we colored it or you colored it in our batiks? Okay, you can't just take someone's copyright and color it. You have to ask, okay? Because also design, why wouldn't a designer want it? That's what you think. But if they have a modern aesthetic and they want to keep in that lane, they don't want you to color it. Or maybe they're in a traditional and they're like, this is my market and I want to be known for that. Okay, so we do ask them. Okay, Ride on 3 is coming on now. We had Ride on 1, 2. When Ride on 2 was coming out, I think it was here, right? All right. So Ride on 3, the third go round, I'm over it now. Okay, I'm done. It's the bicycles. Okay, and I do have some fat quarter bundles that will be giving out today with the Ride on 3, but that's coming in January, I think. Okay, we did 2 different colorations in this one, more high contrast, what you would see on a biker, or what we call mud season in Colorado.
Mud season.
Okay, so the marketing team did not call it mud season though. But anyway, you can have it. Yeah,
Colors, I love those colors.
they're fun.
Did you do the one here?
All right, so what I'm gonna do, I'll pass these around. These are the lookbooks. Now, you are shop owners, okay? You have, this is a new company, Banyan Batiks. You have a budget for a whole bunch of other companies, but you don't have for Banyan Batiks. So you're thinking, how many bolts should we let them have? 10? Maybe you think 10? Yeah. You guys can choose 10 bolts. Okay, I'm going to show you, and I want to see if you can keep in your budget of 10 bolts. Let's start with your lookbooks. Okay, these are going to show a whole bunch of different projects, and we're going to show all of the different batiks this time around. Okay, so I've added some new essentials. All right, and here's a couple projects with it. We did some indigo as well as white and black on these. Okay, are they beautiful? Okay, start passing that way. Here, start passing that way. Okay, 10, what means 10 SKUs, because one of those is a bolt. Okay,
One whole thing?
So this is.
no, just one piece is a bolt, you guys. That's
This is 7 bolts.
7 bolts right there.
Just take my budget.
We're done.
And then remember, a minimum on a bolt.
Remember the hand painted stripes, you guys? You guys saw how those are made, right?
But you can't do 6 yards on some.
More than 10 on.
I know, right? I don't know what colors you're gonna want.
I do.
I don't know what colors. There you go. How's your budget?
I'm done.
Your budget?
I won the lottery this morning, so my budget is through the roof.
Can I ask you a question about pricing?
Yeah.
Do you price your fabrics different based upon how much work you put into, like if you only use a chop once, is it different than if you use a chop?
Good question. Sometimes when I do Color Me Banyan, and this is what this is. Perfect question, timing. If I do a Color Me Banyan, I may price it differently because generally a Color Me Banyan is, Karen had a great play date in Indonesia, and we want to show you all different colors, okay? But in general, if it's in a collection, that means all the prices are going to be similar because I will offer one that is a lot of work and I'll offer a few that are not. So I even it out. Okay? Because for Brian, the owner of the company, that's what we agreed to do, and I make sure that I have a nice variety within the collection to even it out. Okay?
Can I see, this is my, there was I was in Lancaster, Ohio, and I found a boutique shop there.
Yeah.
Only sold boutique here, and I think they were Northcott designers. I think this was before Banyan Boutiques, or right around the time you were starting.
Yeah.
So, would they still be designers for you, or,
No,
I can't think what their name, Ludlow, or, I can't remember their name anymore.
no, the cottons were just, the cotton division is separate.
Sometimes you didn't have boutiques before Banyan Boutiques.
No, they carried, Northcott carried somebody else.
I live in.
And I did a sales meeting at a quilt market.
It was them.
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
I did a sales meeting at a quilt market and the marketing team wanted my way of presenting and instead Brian grabbed me. The owner, okay? Alright, so this is houndstooth plaid. I love a plaid in batik. I adore a plaid. But what's cool about this one is it's non-directional. You can cut it up into triangles. Isn't that cool? Okay, so that's kind of neat. Look at your projects in your lookbook too. Here you go. Okay, so Color Me Banyan category is just cool technique.
Okay, we'll take this one out of group 2, and then with the blue and white,
Okay, so let's do our guest designer. You guys like Scott Flanagan, his block of the month. I'm allowing him to do a collection. You guys know that book, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy? It's called Quilter's Guide to the Galaxy. Okay, isn't it fun? Each colorway stands alone, okay, but they work fabulously together, and you'll see a project by him in there. Okay? All right, how are you guys doing with your budget?
Like, can we decrease from another person?
There's a couple of his projects.
Hey girls, we each get 10, so you put this 10, I'll put my 10, and then she's gotta order 100.
Really?
Everybody
She's
gets
gotta
10.
order 170 if there's 17 of us here, right?
All right, here's roundabout.
Yeah.
This is all about dots. I love dots, okay? And check out this stripe or this zigzag.
Oh, that's neat.
How did I do that?
By hand painting.
Hand painting on the motif color first, then the chop went down, okay? And then it bleached out and then we applied the background, okay? You're still on brush strokes. There you go. Are there cool projects in there? Oh, you know what? I did some pre-cuts in roundabout. Pre-cut strips, right? You guys like those? Yes, roundabout. Yep, roundabout's coming. What we do is a setup in my studio, and then we film it, and I talk about it.
This one's this way, that one's that way.
I like a little pinky. You're not a pinky. Could you explain again how you do the ombre?
This is like a feature
Yeah.
fabric.
If you look, it's in the zigzag, okay? Kind of, you can see color differentiation in the zigzag. So I accordion style it, and then I apply color, and then I apply the chop to hold that color, and then I bleach it out, and then I can apply more color. Yeah. So it's just kind of how many different ways can I apply it, right? Yeah.
Okay.
All right, Home Sweet Home is kind of it's a fun collection. It's kind of like how many different places has Karen lived? But this is the mountains in Colorado, okay? And then the flowers. We actually did a collection. It was called Mary's Garden. It was my mom's garden, okay? So you take inspiration from everywhere. These are a lot of multis, okay? Because multis are fantastic. How many different ways can you apply color, right?
Oh, wow.
Okay, and this particular one, Quilting Renditions is the name of that designer, Carrie Nichols. She used to manage a quilt shop, and her patterns are just fun to work with. All right, Color Me Banyan, Dot Necessities. Aren't they fun? And they cut up really, really well as far as small. But look at the different color application. How many different colors did I choose in that one?
Like 5 or 6.
In the background, and then 4 or 5 in the smaller one, and then 1 or 2 in the, So lots of different color application.
So these dots are smaller than the last.
Yes, smaller.
Did you see my alligator?
I really.
Oh, look at, she's got the original Dot Necessity here. See right there?
That was my favorite.
Yeah.
I couldn't get all the colors because she sold out before I got here.
They're back.
Yeah, I love these dots.
But you can see that little frame there. I kind of tried to show to, I did a sales presentation to the sales rep, and I tried to show that it works in a smaller square.
See one of them.
Cold back
Necessities, fun projects, and they're really good projects.
Okay, 19 SKUs again.
You're at 19 already? We're not done yet.
19 SKUs on that one?
Only in that one.
Okay. so you
Her
only
life is very hard.
I don't know how to do that, 'cause you can't think of just yourself, you have to think of everybody.
That's what everybody said to me in the beginning. Actually, the old owner said, you can't buy just what you like, but you know what? You can.
You can, because if you go with your gut, you're much better, okay? You're really much better. Now, what is the hardest color to make in batik? Red, then black and gray. Yes, you're right. Okay, the reds are very hard to do. You have to process them long enough. Rainy season goes from November until March. Here you go. And if you don't process your reds and lay them out in the heat and the sun long enough, they don't become red and nice and rich. They're pink, right? That's a problem. Okay. So you think about it. Okay, it's going to rain every day, and it's not just a rain. It's a flood. So you can't just lay them out there. How are you going to get all of these pieces of 15 yards of fabric and yank it in time? Because we're going to have a whole new look. We may have a whole new look if we have volcanic ash in it too, right? That was another problem we had. Okay.
That's due probably to sell out because look at all the.
All right. And there's some projects
Or would you
there.
go
Okay.
say no? I don't want.
I did a series called Destination. And we just, where does Karen want to go?
Like I said, I won the lottery.
It was COVID. So we did Destination Indonesia is the last one. And I did a double chop, see, there's a border, okay? So you guys can see, what that looks like as far as,
Oh, there's our flower one.
okay? And then these are woven, inspired by woven textiles made in Indonesia. It takes 2 to 5 months to make the ikat or tenun ikat, okay? So we did it with batik and kind of gave it a woven look. And then there's also hand painted in here.
Ooh, that's pretty.
Okay, so flower at the beginning, okay? All right. Now, because, they don't have a hard enough time choosing these portions. See this quilt here too? In the corner there? Okay. What I've been doing is, Indonesia is very much a tourist area. Okay, and when they got hit by COVID, they got hit very hard, obviously, the batik companies make a lot of clothing for the hospitality. If you wear a uniform, you are somebody, okay? So all of the hospitality, that stopped for them too, the tourists stopped, okay? So what I did is I selected designs by pattern designers I enjoyed, asked them if I could teach the ladies in Indonesia how to quilt, and I taught them via Skype, at midnight, because they're 13 hours ahead, and in a different language, how to make these patterns. They make the quilt top for the quilt shop. So, it's all made, it's all pieced. She can hang it high. She
Solar
can-
flares coming, right?
Yeah, solar flares coming. That's one of them. That was by Villa Rosa Design. This is a new one by Bound to Be Quilting. So they've learned how to make that, and they will make the top so she has a display. Because remember, she gets these bolts in,
Yeah.
okay, and she can put them on the batik wall. Or she could. You guys respond to projects. Okay, so this is a way for her to have a project to hang up.
That's great.
Okay,
That's great.
and it employs people during it was quite difficult this past summer. They got hit very hard in July. Okay. Destination Indonesia, and then Pebbles and Daisies. This particular factory that I work with, look at. Let me see if I can find the main print. See this one?
Oh, yeah.
See how it kind of glows?
Yeah.
Okay, so I've worked with him for a while, and his way of doing color, he'll apply the color, and you have to apply it in a certain order, and he'll go light enough. See how light that color is right there? That gives it a kind of 3D look. So when you're looking on the batik wall, where does your hand go?
To the middle. Yeah.
Okay, it goes to that particular SKU. So I really like working with him in color. Okay, that makes a difference. A couple more. How are you guys doing? How's your budget?
Like I love that green one.
I won the lottery.
I'm
I'm
overdrawn.
putting all that back and I'm
Then
going.
you have to talk to this guy. The IT guy.
Well, I saved this one for last. It's called Resort Life.
Yes.
And I just checked with Beth, and she said I did nail the colors okay, right?
Okay, are those best private ones?
No, they're not her custom ones, but this one, if you look at this, can you see the different colors in there? So I got three shop applications in there. It's kind of a linear effect of water, and it works fantastically for Hawaiian shirts, I guess. But that one, isn't that sweet?
Yes.
Looks like, those little crackers.
Yes.
Did you order them?
Yeah.
That was some inspiration, the goldfish.
It's for November.
I have
Oh,
to share.
Yeah.
There you go.
I like that.
We have to wait till November.
Yes.
Well, that's the pattern I picked
So
up.
they see it now, right? They're just seeing this now. This came out in
Oh, I
sales
love
reps.
the fish.
They're just seeing it now. It's not getting to her until November. She has to think ahead so far, and she's got a whole bunch of different fabric companies that are doing this to her.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I love the resort life.
And what's been really difficult is that we still haven't gotten things from, that should have been here in December. They're showing you stuff for next December.
Yes, it's very hard because think of the shipping channels.
So do
Now,
you need the design,
you
look at
guys,
the lookbook?
we were doing a block of the month. Think about this. We were doing a block of the month in COVID. Okay, how am I going to get it out of Indonesia in time? And they got hit in June and July with COVID very, very badly. And these guys are going to start their block of the month in January. Right? Timing was huge. It was a very stressful 6 months. That's why I'm here.
And you know what?
Relaxing.
You know what? It was amazing because we went through this last year too, and our block of the month last year did start late because of that. So you did an amazing job.
Thank you. Yeah. So we got it out, and I got it out with luster, which is 4 to 5 processes, right? So yeah, 4 out of the 9 people who are qualified to make luster got COVID.
Oh.
So it was a matter of retraining, and it was, let me tell you, behind the scenes. That's why I'm on vacation right now.
So I have figured out what my plan is to
Yes.
get a 10 block. Because in my mind, and I do so with a lot of batiks. Batiks don't come in collections, it never occurred to me.